We are now recording. I'm now going to connect us to Facebook as long as everybody's ready.
You okay, Anna?
Yeah.
All right.
Roll call.
Yeah.
Everybody want to chime in for roll call? That would be fantastic. I'm honestly not sure how that's.
I don't know if I have a roster. Did you get a roster?
No. I'm not sure if everybody will come up or not. We'll just see.
I was saying, I'm not sure what to do at this point. Should I go ahead and leave it in gallery and get started? I mean, or...
All righty then. Okay. I do want to let everybody know that today's meeting will be accessible to the public via Facebook. And I would rather let Travis take the reins to explain a little bit more of the details before we get started with our meeting. So Travis, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Oh, sorry, we didn't get quite connected. I'm still adding us into Facebook, and then we'll be able to be ready to get started. We are now live. We are now live. Okay, we're now live on Facebook right now. Okay, I would like to let everybody know that this meeting is to the board members and presenters here on Zoom, and the public is able to view this through Facebook Live, make comments there on Facebook as well. And I will be monitoring the Facebook page and moderating the questions, comments, and concerns that are expressed through Facebook and bringing them live into the meeting today. So I just wanted to be clear about that part, and I'd like to turn the time back over to Al.
Okay. Let me just make sure that I'm up. Is it my turn now? All right, fantastic. Good morning, everyone. The time is 9:05. It's unusual to be having a meeting via Zoom to do things virtually like this. I do certainly hope that everybody can see each other. And many thanks to Travis for setting this up. As per our regular board meetings, we will start off with roll call to make sure that we have all our members present. So okay, so we don't have an updated list, I think, or do we? Actually, that's a good question. Is somebody taking care of roll call and documenting attendance? I'll put that out as a question. Typically, Kevin took care of that for us. Kevin, have you handled roll call since you've done that in the past? Okay, Jason, I believe wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, I would suggest that every person just temporarily bring up their video, say their name. That way everyone who's viewing can see the members of the board, and you can just simply count who's here. That we don't have to do a named list, but just maybe mention a person's name, have them bring their video up, and then do it that way.
Okay, I agree with Jason on that point. But I don't have a list of all the current names with me. I understand we've had some resignations. We've had some people whose terms have expired. Travis, I don't know if you have a updated attendance list, Travis?
Or Travis, can you just bring up people's video one at a time?
Yeah, Travis, could you bring up each individual and we can do roll call that way? We can just go down the list and just see who's present. And if we can't, oh, there we go. Okay.
Hi, so I do have a list here. I had to really quickly grab it. So I do have a list. I will say a name, and if you're here, please open your video so that we can see that you're actually here in attendance, okay? That'd be great. First, Betty Dodds. Just you can, or you can type in the chat just saying that I'm here if you'd like. Or you can do it with your voice if you'd like to unmute. Seems Betty's not here. So next, Elisa Dittmar. Next would be Alex Sins. Oh, I just saw Alex. He popped up and then went away. So we know Alex is here. I'll check him off. Dara Smith. Oh, Betty also just got in the meeting, and Darren as well. So, hey, Darren, welcome to the meeting. Oh, great. Betty and Darren are both here now. Hey, Darren, if you wouldn't mind turning off your video feed now, that would be great, please. And Betty. You guys need to have gallery view turned on. So click gallery view from the top right so you can see everyone. We have a presenter view specifically for Jason to be able to view the CDI. But then Betty, if you can turn off your video, that would be great. Is Ken with you, Betty?
Travis, you can turn yourself off too.
Oh, they're turning themselves off. It's okay. And let me just make sure, if I force them to turn it off, then they can't turn it back on until I give them permission. So I'd rather not enforce a video being turned off. Thanks. Next is Kenneth Povich. Is he here? He's joining the meeting right now, actually. He's coming in. Everybody is coming in as soon as I call their name. Great. Okay. Lori told me she would be late and be coming into the meeting later. Jason's here. Shannon Minnick. Shannon, were you here? No, Shannon. Okay. Next, Deidre Lynch.
Yes, I'm present. Did you hear
Oh,
me?
great. Thank you. Yes, I got you. And then last on my list is Al. And Al is here. You're last on the list. So that is our roll call. The only people who are not here are Allison. Shannon is not here, and one that's late. So it looks like we have a quorum, correct?
I'm curious, who's joining us via phone? I see a phone number listed there. The last, oh, give me a second. The last digits are 9594. So who's joining us via phone? It's down at the bottom of my screen. Oh, it's Tarita.
Yeah, that's the phone number there. So our outreach coordinator, Tarita, is on the phone. Great. Yeah, thanks, Al. Okay, so I'm going to turn it back over to you. We're done with roll call.
Okay, so I thought we get started with John Brennan. Okay, because I just wanted to
Yes.
clarify who that was. All right, I'm just getting myself organized. If we're ready to get started with the meeting, I'll be introducing him. Well, he'll be coming online very soon. It'll be his turn soon. So we want to start off with approval of the minutes from January 16th. Any objections? Seeing none. If there is an objection, put that in the chat box. I see some chats coming in. Darren makes a motion to approve the minutes from our January meeting. So we need a second. Okay, Jason seconds. Who's taking notes? Who is taking minutes for today's meeting? Just a point of clarification.
I will be doing that, Travis says.
Fantastic. Okay. As I'm sure everybody is aware, TAM has moved from under the auspice of the Department of Information Technology to the Department of Disability as their oversight state agency. John Brennan has also taken over responsibilities for that as Deputy Secretary. However, the Director of TAM is still David Bahar, and he is going to actually say a few words. So actually, I think, John, you can go ahead and get started if you'd like.
Thank you, Al. Good morning, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to take a little bit of time on the agenda just to talk about the transition that's happened. First off, I hope everyone has been able to stay healthy and safe during the pandemic. I think this is the first time that the board has gotten together since March. And so this is kind of the new world that we're in, where we have these meetings via Zoom. So I just wanted to say a few words because the legislation to transfer TAM, as Al said, from DO-IT over to MDOD did pass and is effective. We are in the process of transitioning the program over to DOD, and I do have responsibility for working with David and the team at TAM to help support his vision for the program, as well as provide support with their contracts that they have to maintain and get through, and some staffing vacancies that we have to fill. I won't go into that in too much detail because I know David's going to be providing updates on the transfer, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to reiterate Department of Disability's commitment to supporting David in the program. One thing that we have done in the transition is carved out a separate sort of space in our budget architecture for the TAM program, which I think is significant because it sets apart TAM from the rest of the MDOD organization. It means that they will have a sort of a separate budget page during our fiscal hearings, and it also creates, I think, sort of a unique identifier for TAM funds and how those were being used, so that there's full transparency there, and allows us to protect the funds so that they aren't used for other purposes. And so I know that through the process there was not 100% consensus on where TAM should end up, and so I just wanted to make sure that I followed through in our commitment about being open and transparent, and giving people an opportunity to express some concerns or ask questions. Again, we're here to support the director of the TAM program, and I think so far it's been going pretty smoothly, but I'll let David speak to that. And so we're happy to be able to be in a position to help support the sustainability of the program. And I think that it's going to be a good relationship. And so I'll open it up to any questions that anybody might have, or otherwise we can proceed with the rest of the agenda.
Alrighty. This is Al speaking. I do have a question, John. If you can see me, if you're ready, and we are, yes.
Yes, I can see it.
It's lovely to see your face once again, John. It's been a long, long time. And the deaf community, as you well know, just monitoring the chat for a moment, and the captions I have running are so very small. The text in the chat is so very small for me too. So in the deaf community, we have some lingering concerns, as you know, about this transition period. And there were conditions set forth that would have been agreed to. And those conditions would have been things like budgetary limitations on TAM, related issues, and on down the line. So I just wanted to make good and sure, John, that we're adhering to those agreed upon conditions. Also, I wanted to mention the budget. I have some personal concerns, and I understand that Maryland, like many other states, indeed, due to the COVID virus, have been experiencing some funding crises. And in Maryland, we're trying to catch as catch can, figure out where to get money from and to. And I just wanted to make sure that TAM is well and goodly protected, that any of those limitations will result in two-way communication with the Department of Disabilities. I wonder if it would be possible, for example, if the school budgets were lessened, if there would be budgetary trade-offs between TAM and school budgets. I don't know, if related to people with disabilities. I just wanted to clarify that it certainly, the money is not going to go to a program. And if it does indeed get funneled off to another program, that we have clear bilateral communication with one another during that process as to the funding. I'll turn it to you, John.
Sure. You're right. The budget climate right now is pretty severe. I think the one thing that protects the TAM budget is the fact that the funding comes specifically from the USTF fund, and it's what is known within the budget world as a special fund. And so, as far as individual budget cuts go, I don't think the TAM program specifically is going to be impacted by that, because those funds have to be used for a specific purpose. I think to your larger point, which is, you know, what if either, I don't know if you're referring to MDOD or maybe agencies external to MDOD, because they are experiencing budget cuts, would they try to take some of those funds and use them for other purposes? And I have not heard any discussions or hints that that is happening, or people are thinking about that in light of you know, the current fiscal environment. As far as within MDOD, yeah, I'm committed to full transparency, and you know, the budget is being driven by the director and his collaboration with GABTR, and he'll communicate those priorities to us, and then we'll support those in the process of submitting our budget for FY22. And again, in the spirit of transparency, that was one of the reasons why I pushed to make sure that our budget architecture was changed from its current format to create additional programs that could be tracked separately from MDOD's general funds. We've never been organized like that before, but this sort of creates that opportunity for us. So all of the TAM funds, it's not like they'll be blended into MDOD's budget and you won't be able to tell the difference between all, the use of those funds separate from all of our other source of fundings. It will, it'll show clearly what the TAM budget is and what it'll be used for. And like I said, I'm not aware of any external efforts to try to use TAM funds at this time. If they came up, then, I would discuss that with David, and I'm sure that he would bring in the GABTR board. And I hope that answers your question.
It does indeed, John. Thank you so much for that point of clarification. I just wanted to make sure, I don't mean to look for trouble, but I just wanted to make sure that we are well protected, especially given the crisis in front of us. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who would like to ask John some questions? Do raise your hand or indicate as such in the chat. If you would like to say something, indicate as such in the chat and I will monitor that and Travis can spotlight you. If you would like to say something, we can name you in the chat and then Travis will spotlight you. Seeing no further questions at the moment, going once, going twice, going three, going 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. We're closing that Q&A for John. John, if you had anything you wanted to add.
No, that was it. I just wanted to, again, just let everyone know how excited we are for this this transfer and reiterate.
Do you plan to stay with us for the
Yes.
balance of the meeting?
Yes, I'll be here.
I will as well. Excellent. Thank you, John, very much for that information. It's really good to know. Now, moving along on our agenda, we are ready for the staff report. And I will give the floor to David Bahar. I can't really say give you the floor. I'll give you the screen. I'll give David the screen. Fair enough? Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is David Bahar. I'm a director of telecommunications access for Maryland, and I'm very thrilled to be meeting with everyone here today to give you some updates, some exciting things that have been afoot in our work. And as John made mention, when we met, not so much in March, but in January, for the first half of the year, we've really been underway with no meetings, which has been a source of disappointment. But we have a schedule set, and the April session was canceled due to the pandemic, and we tried to figure out how to kind of get our bearings and catch up with our meeting schedule. Travis Doherty came on board as the director of the relay, and we collaborated in trying to kind of figure out how to make it all work out. Applause from Jason. And so we're very grateful that Travis is here and working things out. And in the context of my report, in past meetings, I will admit I have been a bit long-winded, so I'll try to reel it in this time. As we have mentioned time and time again, I will reiterate, telecommunications relay services are a living, breathing entity that can't really just be stagnant. Of course, there are challenges that are necessary to work through. The way to distribute information via technology, the ease of use, the flexibility for any number of stakeholder groups of people with disabilities, etc. And we just need to make sure of a couple things in that context. For relay and for accessible telecommunication is something that we need to make sure the citizens of Maryland have. Now, for the relay, those services include TRS, CTS, and of course the two new features that I'm going to talk a little bit more about, RCC and RTT. From our perspective, relay services can be brought to a larger cross-section of the population and benefit more people. And it certainly can benefit everyone. Everyone will avail themselves of these kinds of services where they are needed. Similarly so with the equipment distribution programs, if people struggle to use traditional telephones and they can use adaptive or assistive equipment, they might not be aware that the program is available. Also, the loaner program and TAP, they might not know that that is available. So we need to get the word out among the community so that they can use both services and equipment. Since our meeting in January, we have had two large things afoot with our contracts. Certainly the relay contract has been inked as of 1 March. So the TTY and the CTS captioned telephone services were in that, and we've added RCC for remote conferences that we're going to be talking more about a little bit later. We're very excited about that. And RTT, or real-time text, which is a brand new feature. Maryland really is the first state to have adopted that. Obviously, there are growing pains and ongoing frustrations as we navigate that process, but certainly now we're up and running and smoothly as can be expected. And we can give you some updates about RTT in terms of getting the word out for people to use it, enable it, and in the context of a census year, this is certainly very important for that effort. Moving on to staff announcements. Asia Johnson was the outreach point person. They left TAM in 2020, or January of 2020. And certainly we knew that by the time of our board meeting in January, we'd have a recruitment effort underway. And so we have a new TAM outreach manager and a MAT specialist, the MAT specialist for that program. So we've got Travis Doherty in the position of relay director. We've seen him already. He's going to be giving his report very shortly and talking about what he's been doing with his staff. And the TAM outreach position was filled by Donna Bradley. Sorry, the interpreter didn't catch the last
Broadway
bit of that.
Callahan.
Thank you, Broadway Callahan. Thank you. So we're going to have a report about what they've been up to and the two new staff that have come on board. And certainly tons of things afoot, lots of work, good work being done there in that program. Unfortunately, the MAT specialist position is one that we have had open in active recruiting and interviewing and offering, but the candidate to whom we had offered it declined the position, after which the state government announced that all open positions would be frozen. Even if the interview process and the offer and the declination process was already underway, we couldn't go to a backup person at that stage. So we're going to have to hold on for that. But with the support of John Brennan, and certainly with the MDOD team, we have been able to unfreeze and proceed with the process of hiring, and I remain hopeful. The last two positions, we'll say it hasn't really been part of our team historically, certainly for the last 2 years, but I wanted to emphasize that folks will be filling the positions of number 1, TAM Finance. This is a person who processes invoices, looks at spend down of the budget, handles requests, purchase orders, etc. So that's one position. In the past, we have had such a position, PIN, the staff position, under TAM would have been, gosh, to 2018 would have been the end of that. But after that, that position was removed from TAM, and Do It hired out and filled that position. And we were sort of left bereft and having to depend on them for all of our financial functions. And once we were over to Maryland Department of Disability, we were able to regain that function. So PIN is back in TAM. But the same holds true for the freeze, unfortunately. We have been unable to work that at the moment. Finally, the administrative assistant is the second position, and this is not one of our PINs. There are only 6 of those, and so this admin assistant is a contractor. The interpreter didn't catch the name of the individual. The name
Mari Montero.
Mari Montero, thank you. And that will be from July to July, 18 to 20, or 19 to 20. So we had a stop work under that contract after 30 June, and we are now looking for a new contractor to work with for admin duties. Jason, I saw that you did have your hand up. If you're happy to wait until the end of my report, then I can take your question. Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you, Jason. So moving along to transition updates. As John Brennan just shared, some of our transition activities, I wanted to emphasize that certainly the law on 7/1, on 1 July, detailed that transition process in terms of budgetary stuff, accounting matters, all of that has yet to be completed with the Department of Disabilities. And DBM is still managing that transition, our finances during the context of that transition as we go from Do It to MDOD. So it's not like a just plug and play scenario, but we're kind of working it out bit by bit. And as we have seen, by the end of July, or I want to say maybe early August, is when we can kind of get our transition fully operationalized. And once that happens, we're off to the races with FY21 budget matters. And for now, we're going to have to kind of hold off and be in a holding posture as the budget amendment for DBM goes through. And as the transition works its way out, you've got physical and electronic email addresses, little admin management things going on, staff access to this, that, and the other. So a lot of these little minutiae will be pending until we're officially and finally under maybe August 2020 is when we'll have a clean break, hopefully. As this transition happens, certainly this is 12 years in the coming, so there's a lot of people involved, and it's not just TAM, it's MDOD, it's DBM, it's a whole lot of players that have a learning curve to go through. And in the TAM bill, the transition bill, which was passed under by law, you'll remember that there are co-signers to that.
Conditions
to that Sunny made mention of. Those conditions would have been that the director and the leadership team for it has to be on the leadership team for MDOD, and an advisory position for policy matters to the secretary. So that has certainly been happening. And I want to say since September 2019, we've been actively involved with the MDOD team, honestly, for, gosh, 9 months now. And that has been a really wonderful collaboratory experience. They celebrated our arrival. TAM changed our branding to comport with that. We've had outreach in the community, and certainly we've been thrilled with our reception at MDOD and the team there. So we look forward to a further collaborative relationship. And there are items within that bill, including new board members to GABTR. And we have been able to identify and nominate and select folks to add to the board. The Maryland Advisory Council for Deaf and Hard of Hearing being one. Also, we've got Deaf Blind Communication Facilitator Program as well, who are now officially statutorily included under the Maryland State Code. So that's a priority of 2020. I apologize, 2021. That we work on expanding and developing that program. Then Jason says, thank you for that, David. So we're excited to pursue that. Moving along to the financial updates. Now, our finances do not look a whole lot different than they have historically. In the last column for FY18, you'll see an error which should read FY20. And there has been, July through the end of May. Unfortunately, we don't have any information for June 2020, but you'll see the historical and the forecast. That last month is not going to be included in the historical, obviously, but the forecast typically will be under the starting budget for the year. That budget ending balance is $14,200,000. And so that does not reflect invoices that we have just received from the Maryland Department on Aging. That's $302,000. For the Senior Call Check Program. The ultimate balance will reflect that, and so it will look a bit different from what the documents you have before you. So the forecast is maybe upwards of 100K less. We just began on 1 July 2019. So I will entertain questions at this time with respect to the items that I have introduced. Donna is going to talk a whole heck of a lot, and Travis is going to talk a whole heck of a lot about their respective programs of relay and outreach, or maybe MAT. You can certainly pose questions to them for those. But I am finished with my report. That concludes my remarks, and I'm open to your questions at this time. Interpreter logistics, one moment.
Any questions? Guess what we do.
Go ahead, Anna.
I gotta bring them up. 1 second. Okay. Jason, did you have a question?
No, I will ask my question later. I want to make sure we stay on time in our meeting.
Okay, well, I have a question. Regarding the Senior Call Check Program, it's my understanding that we had agreed, I believe there was going to be $150,000 that was allocated to that. And now you're saying that you give a number of 300,000. I thought it was supposed to have a pilot study attached to that. Have we proceeded with that? Or could you clarify the current status of where we are with the Senior Call Check Program, please, David?
Indeed, this is David speaking, absolutely. in the statute, it indicates that the charges for the senior call check program would be covered by the USF, USDF. And TAM would run the program. In the statute, it makes no mention, however, of any cap of how much can be charged. In the past, let's see, this was stood up, I want to say, at 120K for the first year, maybe 250 for the second. And now we have seen incremental increases. Staff costs mostly is the source of that. So we're in the process of now working with Do It fiscal folks to identify what is and what is not statutorily permitted in the process, and every penny of those charges for the senior call check program will be ascribed to, for example, charges that are maybe not including staff or PIN staffing. We'll be working our way through those processes. But as you read the statute, it doesn't really impose a cap in any way, which means that as you...
Which doesn't outline what they can charge for.
Can and cannot charge for, yeah. So we have seen incremental increases for the senior call check program. It is growing. Mind you, the statute does indicate that the program cannot exceed 5 cents per account as it is written now for staffing purposes, and the communication account in Maryland is capped at 5 cents. So as the funding comes in from USDF, in theory, this means that we could charge our entire annual income from USDF. So that certainly is not as intended, but that leaves it quite open-ended, unfortunately. But we are certainly looking into the long term, in my humble opinion. Sunny's asking if you can see him. Yes, we can see you, Sunny. So you said it was 5 cents, David. This is Sunny speaking. That is for the senior call check program and for the TAM related issues altogether. It is indeed. I do agree that the pilot study would have not been permanent funding, but the law was certainly passed that would have taken on a more permanent character for that. Absolutely. And the permanent part
of COMAR.
Permanent part of COMAR was set into law, and it didn't have an expiration date. It was open-ended, but I'm very happy to send among the board members that language for your review or for your consultation, and you can see that it is a separate discussion from the other program. So anyway, we just have to bear this in mind, and we have done so in these last few meetings and now for some years.
Okay,
So
well,
it's been...
Okay, so up until this point, the senior call check has been funded by our program, I believe. And I believe the person that was responsible for that program would now be under the Department of Aging. So they should be part of our program, and maybe we should consider having them report to you as well. Maybe establishing some kind of protocol or procedure for the person who is responsible for oversight of the senior call check program being under your supervision to a certain degree.
This is David speaking. I think that would be outstanding. Unfortunately, it would require a change to the law. It would require the process of introducing a bill. And we would have to come to a level of consensus on that language of the law. But however, we do recognize the irony of a program being funded by USTF money, which was indeed set up, telecommunications access, to pay for a program that is inaccessible to relay users. So that irony is not lost on me. And we remain very sensitive to that. And among our team, certainly we are working with Arnold Apfel of MDA to make sure that the call centers run adequate tests, and we can identify the weaknesses in the relay system, and we can make more mention of that during the context of the report. But there is a whole lot of work being done now to make sure that these processes are accessible to people who are deaf, hard of hearing, and who have other difficulties in using traditional telecommunications. And this invites some questions on whether or not these programs are going to be taking over our funding ultimately. If they do expand to a level that is a risk. So Arnold Apple is going to be talking a little bit about, he talked about at our last in-person meeting in January, would have been, what, 250 people who have signed up for this particular program. And we just need to make sure that that is adequate, that is working. And if there are deaf folks like you, Al, who want to test that, you're more than welcome to do so. So if the number grows, then we can see that happen, but most definitely we have to keep a close eye on it.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily fair to Arnold, for Arnold to have two bosses, so to speak. You know, do you understand what I mean? I think it needs to be clarified. Right now, it still seems very convoluted for him, particularly for Arnold, since he's working for this program and he has really, quote unquote, two supervisors. So we do need to look into solving that as soon as possible.
This is David speaking. Tam is not really in a supervisory position with Arnold. There's really no ability or no constraint upon him whatsoever. It's just the secretary of GABTR.
Secretary Kramer.
Secretary Kramer would be the person to whom he's reporting. So
yes, but the funding is coming from you. I mean, that issue is still there. So we have to work to resolve that issue.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
That is critical for us as well. This is David speaking.
Okay. Another question to the transfer to MDOD and the conditions that go along with that. You mentioned the details of the transfer were still in the works. I'm curious, what is the impact on expenses and your budget? Is there any impact? Has it slowed you down at all, this transfer?
No. It just means that we have a little bit of a gap between our spending with Do It and when we can start with MDOD. However, if we have a critical purchase that needs to be made, we can process that through Do It. And they'll take care of it. They'll reimburse later or something in that regard. So we're not going to lose our ability to operate. It just means that we're going to need to make some decisions on what we need to cover now that can't wait for a few weeks. But overall, we're moving as usual. It's business as usual.
I know Tam historically had a difficult time getting permission from Do It to make purchases. What's the current status? Has that process gotten better?
We don't have possession of the van that you're talking about yet, but it has been ordered. And my understanding is that the van has been shipped. It's on the train, I think, now to BWI as of yesterday. And so it should be arriving at the dealership for us to pick up within the next week or two. I haven't gotten complete clarification on that, but yes, it has been purchased and we will be taking possession shortly.
Excellent. Travis is mentioning that we have a question from the audience. So if Travis could come up.
Yes, I do. This is Travis speaking. Okay, a question from Heidi Berghardt. She says, good morning. The BRFA bylaws are impacted by TAM's budget. And how will TAM and MDOD ensure that they don't sweep funds from TAM just into the general state budget?
BRFA, could you clarify that?
That's what she typed, BRFA. I'm not sure what that means. I can get back to her. David, do you know what she's talking about there? Jason, this is David. Did you have a question?
If we could just reemphasize rules of order to make sure that, I thought we were going to hold questions to the end of the meeting. At this point, it's just the board who is conducting business. We don't, we want to be cognizant of time. So once we proceed through our natural course of business, then we can have questions at the end.
David says, Jason, I apologize for that. I will let Travis handle the logistics of that. But this question from Heidi about BRFA's budget reduction. Right now, the state of Maryland is going through, I believe, I've forgotten the exact numbers, but maybe John could fill us in if he remembers. But the governor has asked all state agencies to reduce their spending. I believe it was by 10%. That's not a number I'm 100% sure on. However, because TAM uses special funding for operations, special funds are USTF equivalent. We are not asked to provide actually any reductions in our budget. Our budget will remain the same and will not be affected by the budget reductions. If anything, it means that we have actually a harder time filling our staff positions because the budget reductions are reduced to the pin freezes. So any vacancy in the pins are frozen until a declaration is made of unfreezing those, and then they can open up for applications, and we've got to prove why we need to unfreeze something. And we're getting a lot of no's when we ask those questions. So we're using USTF funds, and we're not going through budget reductions. And so it gives us, that gives them more flexibility with unfreezing our positions, but the USTF, according to Maryland law, has some specific, I don't know, permissions for what we can use that money on. So in general, budgets are not allowed to take money from the USTF. That's according to Maryland law. The law is, however, very clear that USTF money can only be used for the programs that are listed under 3A. So substantial 5, 6, subparagraphs 5, 6, and 7. So for Maryland Relay, TAM, 6 is MAT programs. 7 is the senior call check. So I'm sorry, let me clarify. MAT program and NFB Newsline.
Mm-hmm.
So those 3 are what the limitation is placed on us for using USTF funds. So they could take budget from other areas, or they could try to, but it would be illegal. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I think we're then ready for our next presenter. Let me double check the agenda quickly. Travis? We're also switching interpreters. Bear with us for a second. Travis? Okay. Fantastic. Hello, everyone. Let me make some adjustments to my screen real quickly. Okay, I think I'm ready to proceed with my report. If you're ready, Al, fantastic. Thank you. So really, let me introduce myself again to everyone. My name is Travis Doherty. I am the new relay manager for the state of Maryland, and I'm really, really thrilled to be here. In addition to that, I'm the liaison for GABTR, coordinating this meeting, as well as working with GABTR. So for the public, if you have any questions, please go ahead and add them to the comment field in Facebook, and we'll be curating them moving forward and addressing them later on in the meeting. Let's go ahead and get started. So I joined in April, and in the last 3 months, I feel like it's already been a year for me, to be completely honest. There's been a lot of things on my plate. We've been making a lot of forward momentum with a lot of different projects. Of course, I started at the same time the pandemic was underway, so that was an interesting experience. So I feel like I've been like running in place within my house, like, you know, running around the house. It's been very interesting trying to get a lot of things completed. A lot of projects, a lot of exciting things coming on board when it comes to TAM, a lot of exciting things happening in the community as well, which has been very exciting that I've been involved in. So it's a really great time for us, as well as a bit of an odd time as well. But I digress. So, as David mentioned, our new contract began the 1st of March, and that brought online 2 new services for TAM. One of them is RCC, Remote Conference Captioning. The other is real-time text. And we'll expound upon those both later on. Now, specifically when it comes to RCC, again, very, very exciting time for us as an organization, because we have a caption service now for online meetings, which is perfect timing when you think about the pandemic and everybody working remotely from home and so many meetings happening virtually. We want to make sure they're accessible for everybody like they are here. You can see them, this taking place in real time. This is a free offering from the state of Maryland for anybody within the state of Maryland. And it has been a learning process, and we have noticed that we have, as a state, are really pioneering the rules for this program. We are writing them in real time. You know, RCC is more hands-off with the process. We are the rule-making body for that, and we are deciding this. So what we are is going to set up forum groups. We're not going to decide this in a silo or in a vacuum. We're going to set up forum groups with a diverse group of constituents, deaf, blind, people from a variety of different educational backgrounds, working both in government and the private sector, and we're going to collect data and information from them. We're going to talk about the uses of RCC. We're going to talk about their experiences with RCC. We're going to use their feedback and data to help develop some protocols and standard operating procedures. We're also going to look at what other states have done in terms of how they've used RCC, how they protect and incorporate it within what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, what their successes have been, what some of their challenges have been. So we're going to take all of this data. We're going to share this with the focus groups. We're going to have these discussions, and this is a process that is still ongoing. At this point, we have agreed that RCC will be used for online meetings only at this point. That means any conference call, any call that you need to call in, you can use RCC. Anything that requires a phone number. Oh, could you hold your question till the end of the report, Jason? Do you mind? Okay.
Sure, no problem.
Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate that. We've also identified some growing pains with RCC, with the service itself, several things that need to be addressed. For example, okay, let me give you a little bit of background. We've been working with Hamilton to modify the existing contract language as it relates to RCC, figuring out how we can improve that. For example, adding the requirement that the RCC captionist must show up 5 minutes before the appointed time. Not 1 minute before the appointed time. That doesn't give them enough time to work out the logistics. So that 5-minute requirement on the front end. Also, some software programming requirements need to be edited, you know, some basic language of the contract. Some changes to that require changes to the software. The goal, of course, is to provide a better RCC service. For example, a downloadable transcript. Right now, We're still having some issues with that, and we're working on solving those issues so that after an RCC call is finished, the client has the ability to download a raw, unedited version of the transcript of whatever transpired during that meeting, the meeting notes, so to speak. We're moving forward with that process. We're also developing a flyer of instructions for how to use RCC, how to request it, how to navigate the process. That is in the works. And that's really exciting because we're going to be using this in the near future. And I think it's going to be very popular because of the pandemic. So we are continuing to find accommodation services for the deaf, hard of hearing, and the deaf blind community, figuring out how to meet their needs, how to make sure that they're getting the information they need, and to make sure that they remain connected in our changing global societal situation. So this really comes online at a perfect time. Next program is RTT, real-time text, that we're adding to our existing contract. We have a lot of work that we have done and that we still need to do when it comes to this. RTT, really to encapsulate what that is, it's live TTY, for lack of a better word. So if you wanted to send a picture or send a video, you can type back and forth and you will see character by character as the person is typing simultaneously during the RTT experience. It's more instant, immediate communication, much faster than TTY. Of course, you know, with TTY etiquette, you have to use certain codes at the end, like go ahead. Then it's very much a consecutive turn-taking experience. And then you have to type go ahead or SK for stop keying. And then there's certain codes to dictate that the conversation is over, like SK, SK. And this has been ingrained in our system, very hardwired into our process. RTT is trying to change all that history. We're not going to be using that etiquette like go ahead or SK anymore. It's going to be very much real time. It's going to be very much text style in terms of the communication. And you're going to see the person typing in real time live, character by character. This is already popular in Europe. It's just now reaching the States, and Maryland is the first state to offer this service, the very first. There are several other states that are soon going to be coming online with it as well, just to let you know. Now, we are gung-ho to use this, but unfortunately, we still have two barriers that we need to overcome. The first is that, how do I explain? Okay, so we know 711, and we're all familiar with 911. For 711, if you're using RTT and you're making a call to 711, you still have to go through a TTY gateway. It's kind of like a back channel door to come in. It's converted to a TTY call. It doesn't go through as a true RTT call. So you still have to use that TTY etiquette of GA or SK. And that's not the full RTT experience. That is not direct to 711 communication. You're still having to be rerouted. And our vendor, Hamilton, is ready to have direct RTT communication. It's ready to go. The issue is that the state of Maryland is not ready. You know, also on a national level, they are still a little bit behind. So we are working with all of the various carriers, for example, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and alike. We're currently working with them to come to some sort of agreement so that they make changes to their program to be accommodating, to be able to transfer RTT calls directly to 711 without doing that TTY gateway conversion. We want direct, immediate access. You know, imagine, you know, being able to send a picture to your interpreter, to your operator, if you're not understanding a specific word, being able to send a picture of that in real time to make the interpretation that much clearer. So it's got so many advantages and benefits, but we need that direct, straight access without going through a gateway to 711. And we're thinking that could be a 6-month to 1-year process before we get that finally worked out. The second barrier is our challenges with 911. And this has been an interesting experience. So we're working with the PSAPs, which are the Public Safety Access Points, which is basically your 911 call center or your emergency center or your highway patrol. You know, they have certain centers, you know, if your car breaks down. So basically all of those centers throughout the state of Maryland. We know we have approximately 80% of the PSAPs throughout the state of Maryland that are already running on what we call the NG 911 or Next Generation 911. In the past, we were under the E911, emergency 911 process. That doesn't accommodate for RTT. However, NG 911 can accommodate receiving RTT calls. Again, they go directly to the operator in those cases. There's no gateway, there's no pass through with 711. It goes directly to that emergency operator. It doesn't have to go through an interpreter to 911 because our goal is to have direct access. You want to be able to even send a picture, for example, if you have a flat tire, to be able to take a picture of that and text that to the 911 operator so they have a better understanding of what's happening. So you can see the benefits, the potential benefits. The problem we're experiencing is that if you call 911 using RTT, it automatically reroutes through 711 before reaching the 911 operator. That's an additional layer of complexity. If you call 711, the 911 operator is not going to be able to locate you. If you call directly, they can pinpoint your location and provide better service. That means if it goes through 711, you could be rerouted to the wrong PSAP, the wrong call center. If I'm calling from Baltimore, I could be connected to a PSAP in Annapolis, which is going to delay the response to the emergency. A direct call would get you connected to the closest PSAP to your location, and then they could process the call from there. So these are things we continue to work on. My understanding is that, again, 80% of the PSAPs are using NextGen 911. That process is already in place. So they should be compatible with RTT. However, it requires ECC, the emergency, well, I'm trying to remember the acronym, the Emergency Centers and Maryland Emergency Management Agency need to officially approve or quote unquote turn on direct RTT to the 911 call centers, to the PSAPs. That needs to be turned on. Right now, the concern and the problem that the PSAPs have is that those 20% that are still on the E911 platform, we don't know how to mitigate those. There needs to be 100% of the PSAPs using the NG911. Then we can go live with RTT so that they can contact 911 directly. TAM disagrees. We feel that they should be turned on even at 80% because those 20% are located in extremely rural areas of the state. And what's going to happen is if a person calls through RTT to a 911 call center, they will get a message saying you are unable to make this call. Please call 711 first, and then that will redirect through 911. So again, we're working to push for turning on RTT direct access because the majority of those PSAPs already have the 911 platform on next generation and are ready to go. So that's something that we're working on with Hamilton, with MDOD, with Gallaudet TAP, with all of these different entities to try and improve this because we want to improve the services for the state of Maryland. Some of the other states are looking to us as a model for how to roll things out moving forward, and we are really building this plane as it's flying. And we want to make sure that the service is acceptable. We have to come up with all of this from scratch, and then we were more than happy to share it with the other states as they bring their RTT rollout on board, so it is also as successful as possible. And it's been a very interesting process. Okay, let's see where I am in my notes. Okay, next. Another part of my work is related to outreach and marketing and navigating those spaces. David mentioned some vacancies. I know that Donna, who is our outreach manager, is going to be talking in great length about some exciting things that are going on with us. We just finished our new logo design for all three parts of our program, for TAM, for our MAP program, and for Maryland Relay. And I'm sure the whole board has seen on the reports what it looks like. Okay, we don't have a color printer, I apologize. So this is the black and white version. Okay. And we're using all the colors from the Maryland flag. We're really, really happy with the logo. It isn't finished, and I'll let Donna talk more about that. But that's been a big part of what our focus has been as of recently. On the 30th of June, David and myself gave a presentation to Deaf in Government, DIG, their weekly webinar, basically doing an overview of TAM, talking about the future of Maryland Relay, and nationwide what relay services were going to look like. We had very good participation, about 60 people in the audience, a lot of questions, a lot of people reached out to us afterwards. We had some people who are using the service, and we also have some people who are interested in using RCC. And we actually used it for the purposes of that meeting. So that was really great to see people kind of coming on board with that. We're going to do some video production in the near future, specifically talking about what Relay is, introducing TAM as an entity. We're going to have this professionally done, and those will be rolling out very soon. Our goal is to really develop some updated modern videos highlighting and showcasing our services, educating people about what Relay is. They're going to be used for outreach, they're going to be used for marketing, they're going to be used for training purposes. They're going to be very, very versatile, and we're looking forward to that. And that's our next project that we have coming down the pipeline. In addition to that, the Maryland Association of the Deaf, MDAD, their symposium, which I believe is July 25th, upcoming Saturday. There are going to be all-day workshops, and Tam will be going to that as well and giving a presentation. We've also noticed that we haven't really given the due diligence and paid enough attention to our Spanish-speaking community and highlighting those services. We have amazing services for our Spanish-speaking community. We have Spanish to English as well as Spanish to Spanish relay services for all of our different services, TTY, VCO, HCO. We offer that in both languages. And we haven't really capitalized on that or leveraged it to the degree that we need to. We have a huge Latina community, and we need to give that attention. Moving forward, we're planning on expanding outreach efforts to that community specifically and making sure that we grow that customer base. So it's a very, very exciting, dynamic time for us. And that pretty much wraps up my report, and I'm open to any questions anyone might have. Jason, you had your hand up.
I did. I'd like to know about RCC use for meetings.
Is it being used for this meeting?
We're using CART. Yes, we've actually contracted CART for this meeting.
Gotcha.
Oh, and I want to let David clarify a few things if I could. I'm going to ask David to come on screen, if you wouldn't mind coming on screen.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Hi there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So just real quick, one thing about real-time text and how it works. RTT, like Travis mentioned, is texting in real time. However, NG911, though it supports that technology, if you happen to call 911 center, it is not supporting RTT yet. So it will go through a TTY conversion at this point. So I just want to remind you that, you know, if you get through and you see garbled language and that it's a turn-taking experience using GA and SK, that's what's happening there. And that is not the experience we are looking for. We believe that is, to put it nicely, a mistake. That's not what's supposed to happen. In an emergency situation where people are feeling stressed and they need communication quickly, having to worry about text being garbled and a turn-taking experience is traumatic for anyone. And so that's why it's so critical, we feel, to get out there to the Maryland PSAPs and convince them who have NG911 capabilities to convert, so that we don't have those experiences taking place. Comparatively speaking, people experience texting to 911. If you text 911, what happens at 911 is that they don't support text, and it just bounces back right now. So a message will say, this PSAP does not support text. Please call. That's the message you get back. But that's not what happens for real-time texting. If you real-time text to 911, it doesn't say they don't support it. The user will just experience a frustrating experience of garbled text and turn-taking. The FCC rules on this are much less clear for the PSAP's responsibility in supporting real-time texting. And because of that, The FCC can't mandate PSAPs to support it currently. So text to 911 is not mandated as part of these other technologies. FCC does regulate certain things like the internet connection for the PSAP and the pipeline that's coming into their building and what size of that pipeline. And they do say, you know, the broadband or the carriers, you know, AT&T, Verizon and them, they must be able to locate wireless calls within a certain radius. They can mandate that. But what happens inside the building, the 911 call center, that is under the Department of Justice and their responsibility. And the Department of Justice will not require them to support text to 911 or real-time text, as we call it, RTT. So we are talking with the state of Maryland. So the state of Maryland can push these 20% of PSAPs to get caught up with modern technology. And I just wanted to clarify that, so thank you for the time.
Absolutely no problem. This is something that I'm still learning as we go too. Any additional questions?
Okay, we do have another question about calling using real-time text. It looks like a TTY at this point, or
No, you use your phone.
I mean, is it an app you have to use, or what is it? How is it you do it? Because people are confused between TTY calls or a phone text call and that. So can we clarify that?
Absolutely, thank you. So as we all know, the traditional TTY machine that everybody is aware of, RTT operates a little bit differently, and it really depends on the type of phone, but the majority of the phones already have this within their operating system. If you go into settings, if you go into accessibility, it brings up a list and RTT is typically there listed and you just turn it on. So it's built into most operating systems. Okay. Most of the phones include that. We do have a landline RTT phone machine. That's what other states are doing a pilot program with currently. They're testing that out. It is a landline version of RTT, which is very interesting. It's still very, very, very new. Most people are accessing RTT via their smartphone because the basic iOS or Android OSs have that. Kevin, did you want to add something?
Yeah, if I could add with real-time text. Matt will be hosting focus groups in September with an RTT pilot program. So we'll be releasing more, and I'll be talking more about this in my report. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Now you mentioned RCC as well, remote captioning, which is outstanding. That happens through telephony only, or can it also be web-based? Because there are many podcasts and webinars that are conducted only online. So I'm wondering if RCC can integrate with the web.
Yes, if there is a phone number to call in so you can hear the audio, that's the only requirement. Any meeting, any video that has an associated phone number that you would call in to access the audio, because that's how it recognizes the relay service is via that phone number. So if you can call into that meeting or that webcast or that podcast or webinar, then you can access it.
Sunny speaking, so it has to have a phone number. Okay, fair enough. So are there any further questions from other members of the board for Travis at this time? Jason says interpreter logistics. This is Sunny speaking. I'll count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. No further questions. Let's have our interpreter switch at this time.
Okay, we're going to switch for Jason. Okay, everybody make sure you click gallery view. All right. Well, that concludes my report.
Yes, we'll move over to Kevin now. Hello, everyone.
One last comment I just wanted to add real quickly. Oops, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Travis, go ahead.
Okay, just one last comment real quickly. Hamilton informed me that as long as the captioner has access to high quality audio, RCC will work. So just wanted to make sure that was on the record. Okay, fantastic. Thank you all so much. Kevin, the floor is yours.
Al, you're still on. You should turn your video off. Hello, board and the public. My name is Kevin Steffi, the MAT, Maryland Access Technology, the MAT manager. My report is over the past 3 months from April through June 2020. If you see the PowerPoint, you can see equipment distribution over those few months from April through there, about 30. And from April through June 30th, we received 67 new applications. That's a fairly typical number for that time period. So I thought that during the pandemic and the shutdown, we would receive less applications, but we didn't. But the number of distributed equipment is 36. We've distributed 36 pieces of equipment. And one of the reasons for that reduction is, of course, because of the pandemic, where the state has ordered that evaluators cannot meet with clients for assessment because of COVID-19. So we've transitioned over to remote services through phone calls, through video calls when possible. But we found that the problem with most of these consumers who are hard of hearing is we can't conduct these through the phone because they need the equipment in order to hear on the phone. And also many of the children, if we can get connected with those children, that's fine. But once we send the demo equipment to them and they test it out, and it's a big process. It takes a long time. So, but it's better than nothing. So 36 pieces of equipment is a sharp reduction from usual. And we've been doing this remotely still through today. Once we entered into phase 2, evaluators were able to go as long as they were using personal protective equipment and sanitizing areas, but the nursing homes and that would still not allow us to send people unless it was a client who lived within their own home, and then we were able to go. Still maintaining a 6-foot distance. And if there were children there, that we had to make sure everyone was protected from any COVID transmission. Next on my list, we've had a number of counties where we've distributed equipment from April through June. You can see those on the PowerPoint as well. And on the next slide, it's the equipment distributed over the past year. So June 2019 through June of 2020. The next slide is the counties we've distributed to throughout the past year, from July of 2019 through June of 2020. Okay, so next I'd like to talk about the focus groups. Jane Hager and I have been working to establish some focus groups. They were supposed to have been hosted in June. However, we've had to postpone those due to the coronavirus epidemic. So those have been moved to September. We have 2 weekends, September 19th and 20th, and then the 26th and the 27th. We're going to be holding 4 groups of people with disabilities, deaf and hard of hearing, deaf-blind, and low vision / blind. And then speech and mobility and cognitive. So actually 7 different groups. So our first weekend, September 19th and 20th, we'll do 4 of those groups, piloting, and then the next weekend we'll have 3 groups to pilot. And the reason for the focus groups is that this is very new technology, telecommunications technology, and we think it's important to find out if it's critical to our program or not. And it's important to have community testing rather than just me doing the testing. So for example, having a blind person or somebody with a speech disability, I can't test that. We need community members to do that. So we'll be conducting those tests and having them fill out surveys. We will also have Travis as part of these, doing RTT testing. So that will be a part of that. For some people in the groups, we'll test RTT to see how that works. So September 19th and 20th is going to be in Towson. The groups will be the deaf and hard of hearing, the deaf blind, the low vision and blind group. And our second weekend will be in Glen Burnie. And it will be people with speech disabilities, mobility impairment, and cognitive impairment. We will then produce some materials after this meeting that will go out either today or tomorrow regarding those groups. Donna, our new outreach manager, she and I have been working together to craft these, to get them looking just right so they've got the right information, and then we will be distributing those. Hopefully we'll get a large number of people interested in being a part of our pilot program. We're going to take up to 10 participants per group across all of the groups. If there's a group that gets a significant number, more than 10 people wanting to participate, we'll create a waiting list in case one of the members that is selected is unable to attend, that we can fill in behind them to keep the number at 10. Also, that waiting list would be utilized if we decide to hold focus groups at some point again in the future. We'll utilize people from that waiting list to be a part of the group. Additionally, we're having some other events in September along with these groups that we're hoping can happen. If the pandemic continues to see increasing numbers throughout the states, then we'll have to see what we're allowed to do based on the state's decisions. So speaking about our evaluators and our outreach coordinators, Jennifer and Tarita, we've been hosting Bellman and Safe on their new product, telecommunications products. Raz has a new, it's called a memory cell phone. For people who have cognitive disabilities or, you know, Alzheimer's, or people who are blind can use this piece of equipment as well. LVS Tech, they have a new one called a blind shell cell phone that is designed specifically for blind people. That's very tactile in its use. It's not for deaf and blind, but it's for blind people who have hearing. Lina Graphica has a touch talk device that's good for people who can't speak. Maybe they have, because of a tracheotomy or aphasia, or because of a stroke, they can't articulate verbally anymore, that they're able to type and have the device verbalize for them. There's a woman named Sarah Calhoun. She's an assistive technology specialist and has an app for speech and cognitive individuals. So she's got some new apps that we might add in to our tablet that we offer. Got 2 more demonstrations. They're going to be taking place August 6th. Square Glow is a deaf-owned business for accessible lighting within the home. It can be used for video phones. It can be used for a caption telephone. It can also be used for doorbell signaling. And they're going to be adding a new mobile piece to that as well. So an iPhone or an Android would be able to connect to those as well. It's called Square Glow is the company. And the last one is a woman named Ellen Perkins. She's going to be giving a presentation about cochlear implants. And we've added that in because we are starting to see a lot of consumers who have cochlear implants who don't have a great deal of experience on how to get their assistive technology hooked up to their cochlear implant. So we want to provide some opportunity for people to understand the new models, the new functionalities that are out there, and to be able to see, you know, which phones are compatible with these new implant devices so that we can add that into our assessment. So the MAT application form is the next topic. This has been the MAT application form for a long time, but we've been working to revise it to make it much better. Some of the revisions we're talking about are, it's multi-pages, so we've moved some things around to organize it better. Many of our consumers have been complaining about part 3 here, which is this long section, that they have to read all of that and agree to, you know, maintain state property, the devices that they're given, and then sign it. And once they sign it, then they have to send that in to our office. And there's nothing for them to be able to keep for their records to see what they agreed to. So we were moving some of that almost over to the last page. So before they send the application, they can rip that part off and then just keep the agreement language. They don't sign on the agreement language any longer. They sign on the previous page. And we think that will be much better. Additionally, we've been working on the envelope. So for the longest time, applicants were responsible for postage. And we've met with a few applicants who said that, wait, I don't want to go to the post office and try to get the stamp or anything. So then they just didn't send us the application. So it's impacted the number of applications we get. So we have changed it to a business reply.
Hey, Steve, you want something?
And that is to help incentivize people to just go ahead and send those in to us. So we've been working with the post office to make sure we can have that added as a prepaid envelope. And we've realized that there's a lot of changes that come with that decision of how things are laid out and put there. And we'll soon be able to get that finished and get that sent over to Devaney to be able to get it printed on here. So DCF, the disability certification form. This is usually a person with a license who fills that out. So to certify that a person has a disability. So some of the things we're changing there is that if the applicant has a speech disability, then they're required to have a speech language pathologist sign it. For those applicants with mobility impairment, they're required to have a physical therapist fill that section out. The reason I'm talking about those two specifically is because as evaluators, people have seen people with a tracheotomy or who have had vocal cords removed and realize that we are not experts in that part of the anatomy. And so then need to reach out to a doctor, and then they get referred to an SLP, and the SLP has all the answers. And so we just think it was better just to document that so that when an evaluator calls directly to the SLP, that they can help recommend the equipment to be used. That's the same with the physical therapists. The physical therapists know, kinesiology, body movement and mechanics, and we aren't experts in that. And, it creates a sensitive situation. So Donna and we haven't started on this, but we will be working on an event called Lunch and Learn in partnership with SLP and physical therapy groups, so that we can partner with them so they can teach us a bit and we can help them understand what equipment we have available. So that once we've got this on that document, that it'll be easy for people who get connected with them to have that portion filled out. Okay, we'll pause to switch interpreters. Okay, moving forward. The DCF section of the forms, a licensed, practitioner is the person who must sign that. And they must also include their license number in this section here. And it says Maryland State Licensure / Certification. And we think we're going to remove the word Maryland from that line. Our rationale being that we have heard from quite a number of people who live near the Maryland border in a rural area, mostly in the western part of Maryland, maybe some on the eastern shore or eastern borders of Maryland. So they live near the Maryland state line, but their physician, their therapist is across into the neighboring state, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia. You know, they live close by, so they actually don't live in Maryland, and it says Maryland license number. So we thought that, you know, I'm talking with David and our AG, Kevin Harp, has said that it does need to be approved by GABTR and MDOD if everybody feels comfortable with taking off the requirement that it be a Maryland practitioner. Now, of course, if people live in the center of Maryland and they're sending us something that has a doctor from, I don't know, let's make up a place, someplace else, not here, but, you know, way outside of a 30-mile radius of where that person lives, then, you know, we may look at that. So we do need GABTR's approval for this change to remove the word Maryland on the form before we go to MDOD for their approval. So for clarification, you need approval from the board on what exactly again? Can I get that clarified? Sure. Kevin Harp has said that we need approval from the GABTR board and MDOD to take off the word Maryland on that line.
From what? Remove it from what?
On the DCF section. The DCF section has the word Maryland state license number. We want to take off Maryland from there so that people from a neighboring state can put their license number in.
Oh, I so. Jason has his hand raised.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know many small businesses who've got their MBE certificate that have struggled with getting a job. And so if they could be a little bit more strict about them being in Maryland, then maybe we would be able to help more small businesses be able to get clients. If they're going to businesses outside of the borders of Maryland, then are we creating a situation where Maryland businesses suffer? That I don't get the opportunity to work with people within my state? I wonder if it would be nice to support the Maryland businesses and support people to go to them. This is Kevin. This isn't really about business. It's just the person who's a licensed professional, like a doctor or an audiologist. So it's not about businesses. It's a separate issue.
Gotcha. Thank you
Oh,
for the clarification.
Most of these people may live, for example, maybe they live near Pennsylvania and they've gone to their family doctor in Pennsylvania just across the border. And maybe they've gotten a job in Maryland or moved down here in Maryland, but they want to keep their provider that they've been going to that's across the border into Pennsylvania. The doctor already knows who they are and their situation.
Exactly. Could you spell that out from what license, please?
Oh, it's here on the
fine
form.
print. Could you spell it? MD. It says MD.
MD state life LIC hash cert and then the hashtag or the number sign symbol.
And which form?
The DCF portion. It's part 4.
And
The
DCF
DCF.
stands for?
Disability Certification Form.
This is Jason speaking.
Jason?
Go ahead, Jason.
Bear in mind, that is for new business with the board discussion.
Yes.
Oh, 1 second. It looks like we have a question from Darren. Darren has a question. Darren has a question. Go ahead. Turn on your video, Darren.
Hey there. I do apologize. I'm still trying to figure out my logistics here, but my question is, awesome. Okay, so my question is, so is that application form intended for Maryland residents only, or is it generally available to other Maryland businesses? Like, okay, so if there's a Maryland resident, for example, let me clarify. Are you only doing it for them?
It is a Maryland resident form.
Cool. Okay, gotcha. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Applicants must reside in Maryland still, but their provider who has the license may be across the border.
Cool, gotcha, okay.
Okay. In addition to that, we have reached out to some other states just to check in. They've been having those same experiences, and they do allow people to cross the border if it's within 30 miles, again, that radius. So that's why I'm using that as a standard. I feel like it isn't fair for an applicant to decline them and say you have to find a licensed provider within the state of Maryland, because that creates a lot more work for them to find a new physician, get this filled out just for a signature. So, and a person that has a mobility impairment, you know, who can't get out of their home easily to go see a doctor, that creates a lot of difficulty. So
Okay, thank
I
you.
do have one more thing. Did you have another question though, Al? Because I do have one more thing on my list.
Oh, well, I can wait. I can wait till you finish your report. Go ahead.
So you're not talking about the application still?
No, it has to do with something you were previously discussing related to equipment. So we can talk about that later.
Okay. Okay. So the senior call checks, we abbreviate that as the SCC. So in February, Arnold and I, we tested this with 2 different groups. We did some robocalls and live calls. Live calls meaning there's an actual person on the phone to check in. The robocalls were done through TTY, caption telephone, and video phone. And they didn't work at all, obviously. So the live calls did work. They worked well. And so we went out and just said, look, the registration form, it's really important that on there, that if it's TTY or a caption phone or a video phone, that be indicated. Because if a registrant checks one of those boxes, we know that it should go either to robot calls or the live calls. The live operators, if they see TTY or caption telephone, they know they've got to go through the relay services to get to those folks. If they see a video phone, they know they call directly. So Arnold, you know, had looked at that and thought, yeah, that's important. And so they're going to put that down on the registration form. But I haven't checked in since then to see if it's actually there or not, because of other things that have taken my attention. So I think that we probably should check on that soon. And I think that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin. I do have a question.
Okay.
I'm wondering, it's my understanding that Apple's smartwatch has a feature that would allow a person, if they fell, it would send an alert. If it didn't recognize any movement from the individual, it would automatically send an alert to 911. What bothers me about SCC is that I have to be near the TTY, or I have to be near within access of my video phone. What if, for example, I'm in another room and I'm not next to either of those two devices and I need to make a call? You know, having something right there on my person, like a smartwatch, maybe that's something that you could, you know, begin a dialogue with the SCC people to see about looking into that and adding that as a possible feature.
I can bring that up with Arnold, certainly.
Okay, now, going back to the previous conversation about equipment. Okay, so and devices for people who have aphasia or those who have suffered from a stroke or who have speech challenges. I'm wondering, you know, people like myself who cannot speak clearly, I use myself as an example. I have this voice recognition software, this system. I try to use this. How can I use this? I'm wondering, you know, is there some kind of, you know, these larger devices that we have for people who have aphasia, is there a consolidated version that fits into an app, something that I could use that would be something that would be beneficial, and I could still receive the voice recognition from other people who are speaking as well? Right now, we have a lot of people using masks, and it's very, very difficult for me to communicate with those people, for example, out in stores. So something for you to maybe think about.
Yeah, so Touch Talk, that particular device is not an app. It's software, but there is another app called Prologue Go
Proloquo Go.
that's very similar, but it's an app. But clients seem to prefer the Touch Talk because you turn it on and it's ready to go. The grid is there. With the app, you have to turn it on, and then you have to put in a passcode, and then you have to get into the app. And so there's a lot more drama there. So different people prefer different things. For people who are deaf, I appreciate you letting me know. I will do some thinking and research on that. Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
you're right that with the coronavirus, it has an impact.
Okay, it's a very different world at this point.
Yeah, thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah, anything that's an app would be fantastic. Okay, any additional questions, comments from the board? Anything? Okay, it looks like Alex, if you could please turn your camera on, you have a question.
Who's going to be speaking?
It's supposed to be Alex Simmons, who is deaf, so he will be signing for himself. Billy, there you go. Alex.
Alex, turn your video on.
Okay. Alex says that his video is disabled. And he is the technology person for the Maryland School for the Deaf, and he cannot turn on his video. Maryland School should be worried. Irony. Okay, hold on. Let's hold on a second and see if we can't get him up.
Maybe he could just type the question into chat.
Can Alex type his question? I think Alex is busy trying to figure out the video.
Yeah, he can ask it later.
Oh. Okay. While we're waiting, David, are you going to stay through the meeting? Or Kevin, sorry. Okay, while Alex solves this video issue, I guess we'll come back to his question later and we'll keep proceeding forward. Any other questions other than Alex's? Going once, going twice? Oh, there's something in the chat box. 6, 7, 9. Okay, oh, there he is. Okay.
All right, I got it. Hey there. Thank you, Travis, for enabling my video. It had been disabled. So awesome. Hey, everyone. Hope all of you are doing well. I am doing well myself. So Kevin, my question is for you. You mentioned about the opportunity of focus groups. I'm wondering if there's been an email distribution that I'd overlooked.
No, nothing has
or
gone
that-
out yet.
Okay. I'm wondering how one might join a focus group. Great.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. At the end of this meeting, we will start distributing that, or tomorrow, probably more likely tomorrow, we will start distributing those communications. Donna and I, she's responsible for outreach. She's going to be distributing to Devaney, Facebook, other organizations. It will go out to them.
Okay.
It will have an explanation of how to register through email or giving us a call to be able to reserve a spot in the group. And we're only going up to 10 people in each group, remember, so.
Great. Thank you, Kevin.
Sure. Jason?
Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the focus groups as well. These are in person, are they not, or are they virtual through Zoom?
In person, yeah. Because
Well,
we have to have,
I do have concerns about the safety of deafblind participants.
yeah, it is hands-on though, to use the equipment. So if we did it through Zoom, they wouldn't be able to test it. You know, they really wouldn't be able, I mean, they wouldn't be able to know if it works for their particular use case. And so I understand the concern about safety. And what I would say to that is if by September that we feel that the numbers show that it isn't safe, that we would postpone that again. We certainly don't want to create a burden on people and be a part of spreading the disease.
That's understandable.
Oh, I guess we have more questions coming in. Hold on while we change interpreters.
Hey, Kenneth.
Is it Ken or Betty?
I don't know if I'm on. I can't see me, but that's fine.
One moment. This is Jason speaking. Sunny, one moment. I'm trying to get my interpreter on screen.
Jason can't see the interpreter.
One moment.
Not there.
I've got Steph. I need to get Stefan on screen. Hello.
They need an interpreter there.
No, I can't. Dang it. I can't see anybody. What's going on here?
Interpreter's there now.
Go ahead. All right.
So Ken or Betty, go ahead and ask the question, whichever one has the question.
Yes, on the focus groups, I would like to make sure that you include senior citizens who are, who may be like we are, that is, not particularly computer literate anymore, because technology has changed so much. And I also would like to include people who are late deafened or late blinded, because they are so out there on a limb by themselves. This isn't something they've experienced all their lives. They're trying to learn how to communicate with people with a new disability. So please try to find people. The Association of Late Deaf and Adults, I know, has can give people information on the Maryland Relay. I would like to see it go the other way. But also senior citizens, please, they are just really not in the best of shape. And I thank you for letting me ask my question.
Jason says,
Yeah,
I agree
great.
with that. I agree with that completely.
Great. Yeah, thank you for raising that. We are not limiting this by age. 3 years old all the way up. Whoever's interested to participate, we would like them to participate. If we get a large number of people that want to participate, we may set up another time to do some more focus group testing further down the road. Thank you, Betty.
All righty. Moving right along to the next individual on our program or on our agenda, then we will have a break. The next person is Donna Broadway Calaman. Just
Hello,
doing interpreter logistics, Donna, one moment. We're just making
Okay.
sure. Sunny says, I'm just taking a drink break. I've got my Clorox here, one moment.
Very
Just
funny.
one moment, interpreter logistics. This is Bradley speaking. One moment, interpreter logistics. We're just making sure that one of the participants can see the interpreters on the screen. Jason says, yep, I'm good. And Allison. Okay, here we go, Donna. Floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Donna Broadway Calaman, and I am the new Outreach Manager for Maryland Relay. I have been here since May 6th, and this is my first GABTR meeting. Good morning, everyone. So some of the new changes that we have with Maryland Relay, as was spoken about earlier, we are now under the Department of Disabilities. So we are dealing with that transition. We have also updated all 3 of our logos, and here they are in color. I don't have a printer, so they're on my phone. And we will also be hiring a new outreach coordinator to deal with the real-time text and integration. So we put out the advertisement for that. So hopefully we can bring somebody in soon, and Hamilton is taking the lead on that, because they will be a Hamilton contractor, but they will work in our office. And we are also promoting RCC, remote call captioning, with a new presentation, handouts, and by using it ourselves in our webinars and trainings. As you all know, it is kind of hard to do outreach and marketing in the pandemic, because a lot of the places that we go to, they are closed. They are closed to the public, like senior centers, libraries, and like conferences. So a lot of our major conferences and events have been postponed, canceled, or they are virtual. So how we are working to stay connected is we are doing advertising. Our outreach coordinators are doing webinars. We are attending virtual events. We are doing mailings, social media, videos. We are also promoting our programs, the Maryland Relay programs, and then we are also working to do more outreach to fellow state agencies and fellow government agencies. And right now we are unsure of when in-person events will pick up again. We were kind of hoping that they will pick up by the fall, but a lot of events going into October, they have been canceled. So the hope now is maybe late winter, maybe December, January. Somebody said March 2021, but we'll see. Hopefully by the end of the year, we could start doing in-person events again. And we are also working on our summer 2020 newsletter. That was delayed a little bit because we just decided on the logos that we are going to have. So the logos are finalized, and Devaney is working on that content. So some of that content includes our move to the Department of Disability. It includes a welcome for myself and Travis. It includes our the webinars that our outreach coordinators are doing, and also that the team is doing. Our Maryland Relay Partner Program, as well as a GABTR member profile for Lori Markland, update on RTT and RCC, and just other information, including when our next GABTR meeting is going to be. So that's pretty much it for me. So does anybody have any questions?
This is Al speaking. Welcome on board, Donna. We look very much forward to working with you. You're
Thank
doing
you.
an excellent job. Really, really good. So are there any questions from the members of the board for Donna at this time? I will give you the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ah, we have a taker.
I have a
Alex.
question.
Yes.
Hi,
Yeah.
Donna.
Hello.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to-
Virtually, if nothing else. So I work for the Maryland School for the Deaf, and we have a large deaf community in the county of Frederick. And I'm wondering, well, if you have any questions about hosting events in Frederick, feel free to reach out to me. You can use our facilities. We also have another campus in Columbia, as well as our campus here in Frederick, Maryland. And we'd be more than happy to host events at either of our facilities. So just wanted to let you know that. In addition, I'm looking at the report, I'm looking at the summary of the meetings, and I'm wondering, would it be possible somehow to either edit or revise this, the notes, the flyers, how do I say, to make it more user-friendly for the public? That way we could include it and send it out to the community in Frederick, send it out to our Maryland School for the Deaf community, so they're aware of some of the things we're doing, announcements coming down from TAM, information, things like that. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to maybe condense this information, create something a little separate in a different format for public consumption.
Yes, that is definitely something that we can do. That's something that we can work on. Our contractor, Devaney, they actually specialize in that, so I could get in contact with them and ask them to make something that is friendly for the community.
And Al had said, David had something you wanted to say. Billy, you want to?
This is David speaking. I wanted to add also my response to the point that Alex made, which is an excellent one. I think that it would have been March and April that we were working with the superintendent, Tucker, at the School for the Deaf to put together a one-pager of information in a PDF format, just to give a quick and dirty about the availability of the programs and invite the students and staff and family members to apply for equipment. And we have certainly shared that with the Maryland School for the Deaf, with Superintendent Tucker. And as well, we've shared it among the medical professional community of practitioners, certainly those who are at the School for the Deaf, to sign off on those forms of who, and the logistics of who and where and how to do that is contained in that one pager. I think that at the Maryland School for the Deaf, certainly it's one of our larger client bases in terms of incoming applications to participate in the programs. And they're very, very well versed on that. And so we wanted to make sure and get some marketing together on how to undertake that application process.
This is Alex. So not only applications just for information like RTT and 711 and 911, but the events. I think it's really good for the community to be aware of the events. So that, I think we got a flyer, let me look. The PowerPoint presentation in there, there's all these different reports, maybe converting them into public appropriate documents that can be reviewed if you think that's possible. That's what I'd like to speak.
I
Great,
believe,
yeah.
this is Al, if I could jump in. I believe what Alex is trying to talk about is maybe like more of a bulletin format or a bulleted list, something that just kind of highlights some key talking points. Might be a little bit easier for public consumption. Is that what you're referring to, Alex?
Well, I mean, perhaps something like that. Maybe bullet list with links, actual links to the event, like an RTT event or the other conference captioning service where the community can become aware of them by a link.
Okay. And Donna,
Yes.
since Alex is a board member and also happens to be a resident of Frederick in the Frederick County area, strongly recommend that you leverage him as a resource because he can certainly help you. Am I correct in that, Alex?
Absolutely.
Okay. One other thing. I was actually shocked and surprised to hear that you guys are still using Devaney for your PR firm. I remember when we first established relay services here in the state of Maryland back in 1991, they were using Devaney at that time, you know? And that kind of makes me wonder, have we ever had a chance or an opportunity to do maybe some price comparisons with some other PR agencies, or maybe just some comparisons in terms of the ideas other PR agencies might have? I mean, this has been the same approach since 91. We're going on, you know, more than or almost 30 years at this point with the same PR firm. So I'm wondering, you know, should we maybe look into and explore other agencies who might have something else to bring to the table? What are your thoughts, Donna?
That's definitely something that myself, David, Travis, and Kevin can discuss and see if that's an idea that we want to move forward with, if we want to stick with Devaney. Yeah, so we can, the four of us can talk about that. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with, you know, a little competition, a little price comparison. Looks like Travis has a comment.
Travis, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, hello. So I understand, you know, you've been working with David, but in my experience with Delaney, they've been great. They've been working with other states as well, but as soon as we got our new team in, so David came in, I came in, Donna came in, then they knew that we had a new team and a new approach, and they worked really hard for the new logo design, the new marketing materials, the new planning. They've been very responsive and very good, very timely. As we've approached deadlines, they've made those deadlines. They've really exceeded my expectations for their design work, and we've had no complaints with them. I think they've really been fantastic. You know, we could compare them to others, but we also subcontract, you know, through Hamilton, through some other folks, for the film production. We're hiring deaf film producers for that. We had looked at different production companies and to be able to produce our tablet videos. So we're looking for ways to support them, those other businesses, and so I mean, I see where you're coming from.
Okay, Donna, anything else you want to add?
No, that's it for my presentation.
Okay, fantastic. Any additional questions from the board? Going once, going twice, giving everybody an opportunity to respond. All right. Thank you so much, Donna. We appreciate your report.
Thank you. It's nice to meet everyone. Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to move into our 10-minute break. It is currently 11:15 according to my clock, so everybody please come back at 11:25. So we'll see everyone at 11:25 to resume our meeting.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to call Al back. See if we can get Al back, and we'll get started again. Okay. Okay. Jason, are you there?
We've lost Jason.
Oh, wait, here he comes. Great. So
Oh,
the answer to that question, Jason, is yes. The interpreter did not see the question. Okay, I want to make sure we're all set, so I'm going to turn off my video.
okay, this is Al. Okay, are we ready to proceed with the meeting? Jason, are you ready? Yes,
Yes.
okay, great. So to let everybody know, it's almost 11:30, so we might go a little past 12. I just got word that one of our interpreters can stay past our hard stop at 12. Travis is going to update me about the other interpreters. Okay, and Jason's asking, can the CDIs stay? Bradley says yes, not sure about Stephen. Okay, so Billy and Ann can stay. Bradley's saying he can stay. I'm not sure about Stephen Kennedy. Okay. So for the next presentations, Tarita and Jenny, they're going to do their presentations. However, for the Hamilton report, there's not going to be a presentation. It's just going to go directly to the question. So Melissa is here to answer any questions if the board has any. Thank you. That's how the rest of our agenda will run.
Thank you, Travis. Okay, so I just got a message from Stephen Kennedy that he can go beyond 12 o'clock as well. And so we're now going over to Tarita. I see Tarita there. Oh, welcome. The floor is all yours.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I see some hands flying, so that means yes. So great to virtually see everybody this morning. It is still morning. We're very excited to be here and have the opportunity to speak. So traditionally, Jenny and I will stand before you and we'll share all the amazing things that we get to do out in the community, where we've been and how amazing the state and the residents are, and most of all, how much we love our job. Oop.
One moment, point of order,
Sure.
Tarita, point of order. One moment. Jenny, can you disable your video at the moment so we can just have Tarita on screen? Take it away, Tarita.
Awesome. So yeah, we love to get in front of you guys and tell you how much, it's pretty much how much we absolutely love our job. And then COVID. So just like everybody else, in the middle of March, Jenny and I were charged with the task of figuring out the new normal. But we're outreach. So what does our job look like if we can't go out and reach? Do we just sit home and tap our fingers and wait for the world to open back up? Not a chance. So with the amazing support of Hamilton and the TAM staff, we joined the virtual world absolutely head first. And this may be hard to believe, but during this time, our passion for what we do has grown tremendously. We have been trained to provide webinars, so we're still able to provide those informative, interactive, live, dare I say, fun presentations. So if you see a post on Facebook, don't be shy, hit that registration button, join us. We would absolutely love to have you there. We also have brainstorming sessions with fellow outreach coordinators. So we get to discuss things like how to stay connected with the public, how to make exciting emails to share information with context. Yes, emails can be exciting. And even things like how to better navigate the digital world. Again, we're all in this together, and all of us we have to do our part. Even though we're separated, we're never isolated. Hamilton also has a yearly summit for its outreach coordinators, and this year it was 100% online, and it went brilliantly well. There was lots of discussion about innovation and authentic communication. What perfect topics to delve into. And I would like to give a special shout out to my teammate, Jenny. She gave a fantastic presentation during Summit. I'm very proud. She did Maryland very, very well. And I will turn it over to her so that she can continue with our report.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Jenny Pearson, formerly Jenny Curran. I think we've only met twice since I was married, so some of you may not realize that my name has changed. But yeah, so super excited to be here with you this morning. Have some updates for you. As Tarita said, the face of outreach recently has completely changed. And so in the months of April through June, Tarita and I did a combined 11 networking events and 12 webinars between the two of us. We are continuing to research future opportunities for webinars and networking events to connect with more of our community. Please let us know if you know of a group or a club that would be interested in attending a webinar. And keep an eye on our social media account for upcoming public webinars to experience the thrill of a virtual presentation. Another update about the Scholarship Award. We were thrilled to present the 2020 Hamilton Relay Scholarship Award to Joseph Hayden, Hayden, of Hebron, Maryland. He attended Mardella Middle and High School and will be attending Salisbury University in the fall to study sports medicine. Also in May, Hamilton Relay participated in a community project in an effort to show our support for senior citizens living in retirement communities with little to do during the pandemic, as well as to show our appreciation to staff keeping those seniors safe. We provided adult coloring books and colored pencils to senior citizens, as well as a sweet snack treat to staff working in these facilities. Total nationwide care packages were sent to 2,273 residents, and treats were sent to 1,411 staff members at 30 senior living communities nationwide. So we were really, really excited to present that. I'm also really excited to reveal that Nancy Rogers was awarded the 2020 Hamilton Relay Better Hearing and Speech Month Award. She is a very active member of the Greater Baltimore chapter of the HLAA, and she was instrumental in advocating for the installation of an electronic hearing loop in the main sanctuary at Beth Israel Congregation Synagogue, as well as this installation of a second hearing loop in the smaller chapel to honor the memory of another HLAA GBC member, Penny Kafka. That was installed in February of 2020. It was because of these efforts, as well as many others, that we will be presenting Nancy with her award sometime this month via a Microsoft Teams virtual meeting with her friends and family. Don't forget, like I said, if you would like to attend a webinar, we are now providing RCC in every webinar that we present. Registration for these webinars can be found on Facebook and Twitter, and you can also reach out to Tarita or myself for registration information. Finally, Tarita is now accepting nominations for the Deaf Community Leadership Award, and the deadline to submit your nomination is August 21st. So please reach out to Tarita with any questions or if you want to obtain a nomination form. So that is my presentation today. Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to seeing everybody in person, hopefully sometime soon.
Okay, thank you so much to both of you, Jenny and Tarita, for your nice report. Now, you mentioned which state are they from?
In regards to what, Al?
Nancy.
Nancy.
She won an award specifically, you mentioned.
Yes, Nancy is in Maryland. I believe she lives in Pikesville.
Oh, Maryland, okay.
Mm-hmm. Every state that Hamilton holds a contract in, we provide a Better Hearing and Speech Month award. And for this year for Maryland, Nancy was our winner.
So the reason I asked is because we have a vacancy for a hard of hearing position on the board. So I just kind of thought it might be possible to see if she has any interest in that. So thank you so much. And thanks again for your report. Any questions from the board for either Tarita or Jenny? Going once, going twice. I'm going to give everybody 10 seconds. Okay. All right. Thank you both again. Okay, now we'll have our reports from the board, starting with myself. I have no report, other than, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in speaking with John, I would like to see a progress report of the transition from DO-IT to MDOD for the TAM program, and to make sure that the list of conditions we outlined are being met. So that concludes my report. Any reports from any other members of the board?
This is Jason. You should probably call people out by name.
I don't have a roster. That's the problem. I would say any board member who has a report, maybe type that into the chat box, and then I'll call on you. Jason has a report.
Yeah, I would like to add that this summer, we've been invited to 4 internships to develop apps. We've got 4 interns working on developing apps for deafblind people, SSPs, food delivery services, communications, and I'd like to see how these go as far as what government rules we need to follow, and make sure that these apps are compatible with state requirements so that we can provide these as ready resources and can move through the process quickly, rather than, having to hire new staff and get through there.
David, do you want to respond to that? Jason's comment?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Jason. Can you tell me a little bit more about your concern or question so I can better understand where you're coming from?
Oh, it's not a report or concern. It's just stuff we're working on.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason.
Okay. Alex, I'm sorry, not Kevin. Did Alex want to say something? I saw him pop up. Okay, looks like we have no reports from any members of the board. Again, going once, going twice.
No.
This is Ken
but,
Putkovich,
yeah.
Al.
Go.
I had a couple of comments. I was surprised that
Ken, fantastic. Go ahead.
yeah, I was surprised to hear that the legislature had passed the transfer from the Department of Disabilities. I hadn't heard anything about that. Had not heard any news since we were up in Annapolis at the hearing. Second, I didn't know that the relay contract had been awarded. That was a surprise to me also. And one other thing, the meeting, the stuff that was sent out yesterday, and I couldn't access it. I had a problem accessing it, so was not able to review it. Hopefully in the future we can get it out a few days early, so in case people that are computer illiterate like I am sometimes will be able to resolve their problems and be able to get to it and see it before the meeting. Those are my only comments. I don't really have a report.
All right, David, did you want to clarify the surprise that Ken had? It seems he wasn't aware about the transfer. Do you want to speak to that?
Indeed. Hi there. This is David speaking. Yes, Ken, we did send out some email distributions to members of the board to apprise them of the contract. And we had been in regular communication with Al about any number of updates with respect to bills that were underway, being passed, and with the transition issues. Well, I suppose we need to do a better job of communication with our board members to participate in the decision process and be apprised. And I can certainly share those things with you if you like.
I think the reason why people are a little bit surprised that the transition had been approved is because the governor didn't sign this, if I'm correct. The state house passed it, you know, and then it was sent on to the governor, and the governor was supposed to sign it, and apparently he didn't sign it. And it became law automatically after X number of days without a signature, obviously. With the current pandemic and the current situation, I'm sure the governor had other more pressing priorities that he had to attend to. So basically the way it reads is that bills will become law without a formal signature from the governor after X amount of days. Am I correct in that, David?
You are indeed correct in that, Al. So for the purpose of this legislative session, obviously we're not working in a normal set of conditions due to the pandemic. So the legislative session wrapped and they were scrambling to get everything passed and get out even earlier. So the governor decided that bills would be signed only if they were very significant. Otherwise, they would be allowed to become law. So that will become the new norm for the moment. And we shared yesterday in a press release and on Facebook, and we distributed it among community channels that the transfer has officially taken place and that we continue to transition from DO-IT to MDOD. Gosh, it would have been maybe, Donna, if you could correct me if I'm wrong, probably about 2 weeks ago when we started that communication process. Thank you.
Okay, Donna, did you want to say something?
No, I think you're pretty much right in our timeline. It's been about 2 weeks. Yeah, it started on July 1st, and then hopefully everything will be solidified by August. So if you're waiting for anything, if you need anything, give us until August for all of our processes to be moved over and everything to be in place. You know, it's the state. State moves a little bit slow. Then when the pandemic, people moving from home. So at least give us until August.
This is Ken again. David, could you please send, at least to me, a copy of the legislation as in its final form?
Will do, Kenneth.
Okay. Looks like Travis wants to say something.
I do indeed. Let me get the spotlight right. Okay, so can we all return to gallery view? Excellent. With a brief response to Ken's comment about the lack of access, just so you know, it would have been a month or two ago, we ran some tests of different web meeting platforms. Reason being, the state of Maryland forbade the use of Zoom for any and all state-sponsored activities. We were unable to use it due to the security weaknesses. So we tried a number of other ones, but frankly, none of them were friendly for people with disabilities. Finally, 2 weeks ago, we were approved to use Zoom after all of the failures that we were able to prove. So the Department of Deaf and Hard of Hearing as well was with us in trying to get movement on that, giving us access to a Zoom platform. With no luck, until we talked to ODDHH, who had an account, and I really have to thank ODDHH for allowing us to use their Zoom account for this very meeting. To this day, I don't have my own Zoom professional account, but if I were to, I would be able to have, I would be able to embed PowerPoints, share information on screen in a clear and user-friendly way. But you know, we would have been very much against a deadline of getting this meeting up and running. So we're doing our best with the situation at hand, but thank you for all of your understanding as we undertake this workaround, because normal in-person meetings are just not possible. So this is a new set of circumstances. So we really appreciate you coming along with us for this ride.
Thank you, Travis, for the clarification. We appreciate it. And I agree and understand, Ken, you know, we definitely should get the reports a little bit more in a timely manner, more than one day before the next meeting. So hopefully that will come to fruition. So any additional reports from any other board members? I will give you the standard 10 seconds to respond. Okay, seeing none, I would open up the floor to new business. And I understand that we do need to make a formal motion to remove the word Maryland. And Jason, you have the screen.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion at this time to remove the language, the wording of Maryland from the form in order for potential clients to access their providers within a 30-mile radius in other neighboring states.
Second. Oh, bear with me. Looks like Alex seconds it. Any discussion on the motion? Board recognizes Jason.
I move to close the discussion, given that we don't want to protract this over Zoom.
Well, Robert's Rules of Order and Parliamentary Procedure, we have to see if anybody is opposed. Anyone opposed to the motion? Standard 10 seconds to respond. Okay. Discussion is now closed. Call for a vote. Again, any opposed? Counting down. Okay, motion passes. Now, moving on to any new business from anyone. Any input from the public? Okay, moving down our agenda, any announcements?
Yes, I do have a comment from the public. This is Travis. Okay, the question was, this is from Heidi Berghardt. What relationship has Tam/Matt established with the Maryland School for the Deaf to ensure that their students have access to iPads or other type of telecommunications devices?
Sorry, I'm having a side conversation. 1 second.
David, you want to answer that?
I can certainly respond to Heidi's question. We have been in touch with the Maryland School for the Deaf, with Superintendent Tucker, and we have shared with him that form in a PDF file. That file explains how to qualify for a MAT program participant and how to certify as a person with disabilities on that form, and how to apply for equipment distribution. All of that, including the iPads and the other devices. And we have certainly shared that at the Maryland School for the Deaf, and they have distributed it among their community of students, faculty, and staff. Thank you for that question, Heidi.
We have a last question from the public, and then I think we'll be done.
Oh, 1 second, 1 second. I think I saw a question. Donna, there's something from Donna.
Hold on. Yeah. So I was just saying that in terms of like outreach, what we're planning to do for fiscal year 21, once we're able to get into the field and all our restrictions are lifted, we're definitely planning to strengthen our relationship with the School of the Deaf, both campuses. We plan to be more outreach, drop off more paperwork, just be more involved, maybe do some sponsorships. We want to increase some sponsorships and maybe like sponsor the sports team, some activities, some events, things like that. So we do plan on strengthening our relationship in terms of what we're doing as far as outreach.
Thank you. Okay, any additional comments from either the board or members of the public? Travis?
Yes, actually, I do have one final one from a member of the public. The same individual. This question is for Kevin and David. Al indicated that the Apple Watch will be potentially available for people who experience a fall. Is Matt going to distribute that kind of equipment for people who are at a fall risk?
Hey, this is Kevin. For the Apple Watch, they will be included in these focus groups for testing. And if things go well, then there is a potential for them to be added in. The iWatch is already in our RFP of devices on the list. So we did get that in there in case things go well in the testing.
Okay, thank you. Happy to see that. maybe you should check to see if that could somehow be integrated with the senior call check.
Yes, and I have made a note of that. I will be talking with Arnold during the testing of the iWatch.
Fantastic. Okay, seeing no other announcements. Okay, then we'll move to adjourn. Nice. We're going to count to 10. Again, give everybody an opportunity. Up.
I've got
David.
something. Yeah, if I may. This is David speaking. I think that Darren indicated that he had a question.
Okay, yeah, can you see me clearly?
We certainly can.
Okay.
I missed your chat,
So
though. Thank you.
I wanted to ask two things. First, with the new bill that just passed, so we're placing a few people on different committees, right? So the Committee on Disabilities, ODHH, and maybe during the next meeting, we can figure out who are being placed, you know, once COVID is dealt with. That'd be the first comment. The second question would be, is I wanted to ask David what his perspective is on taking the senior call program from the Department of Aging and putting it under TAM. Would that be a better fit? Because it seems like maybe they don't know as much of what they're doing. And so do you think it is feasible to do so?
Hi, Darren. Yes, this is David speaking. I think that that is a really good question. My thoughts are, firstly, that we will have to make a change to the law in order for that to happen. So that's work that we have to do with the legislature, going to Annapolis, testifying, going that route. Secondly, I'm sure that the SCC program does work under TAM. As I envision it, telecommunications access is served by the senior call check program. But telecommunications access is not particularly served by the senior call check program. That has more to do with health, wellness, safety, providing assistance. At least that is how Arnold characterized it to me in the past. It's a call in, it uses a call, but it's really to check. And if they do answer the call, then we know they're okay. And if they don't, then they do an in-person check to the house. So it's not really about telecommunications access. In terms of how we plug ourselves into that, it's just that, frankly, it was put on our plate. They wanted to fund it and they put it on our plate. I don't think that it's the best operational fit for us, but if the legislature decides to go that route, or if you decide to go the legislative route to make a change, then you could advocate for it using general funds.
So I'd like to add, on a personal note, I'm president of DSA, Deaf Seniors of America. And we'd like to develop a relationship between DSA and the AARP. And in Maryland specifically, we have several senior clubs. I want to say 4. There's one in Frederick. There's one in Silver Spring. There's a 3rd in Baltimore. And I believe the 4th is in Howard County. I'm not 100% on that, but there's 4. And as of right now, there's no relationship with the Department of Aging between those clubs. Other states, those relationships exist between their departments of aging and those senior citizen deaf groups. So perhaps, Matt with SCC, with that program, could develop some kind of linkage between the Department of Aging and the deaf senior citizen clubs throughout the state of Maryland. I think that would be a very, very positive movement. Okay, any other comments? It is now 12:01. Jason's excited. Okay. Do you have other things to do, Jason, apparently? Okay. I know people are home. They're looking for things to keep them busy. That being said, all right, I want to say it's been wonderful seeing everyone. See you all again in 3 months at our next meeting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our interpreters as well. Thank you to our cart provider. Okay, and Travis is going to stay. We're going to stop our recording at this moment.